I'm Staff Sergeant Allie Rose. In the news, Defense Secretary Robert Gates met with NATO foreign and defense ministers Thursday in Brussels, Belgium. Secretary Gates said the Council will try to agree on committing to various critical capabilities, among them missile defense, countering improvised explosive devices, cyber defense, and aircraft command and control systems. He also said the ministers will discuss a proposal to slim down NATO's command structure. NATO currently has 14 agencies. Adapting the proposal would bring that number down to 3. The United States, the Republic of Korea, and their allies are ready to deter any aggression from North Korea. That's according to the commander of U.S. Foreign Forces Korea, General Walter Sharp.
Koreans and Americans, along with other nations of the United Nations Command, remain ready to deter any North Korean aggression, and if deterrence fails, to fight and win.
General Sharp spoke Thursday in Seoul at a ceremony to mark the 60th anniversary of the Korean War. The Department of Veterans Affairs has launched a new ad campaign to encourage vets to take full advantage of VA benefits.
Sign up for healthcare at your nearest VA. Or are you thinking about a job?
The 30-second ad focuses on today's generation of veterans returning from Iraq and Afghanistan. It addresses health issues, going to college, finding employment, and buying a home. The ad emphasizes the goal of a seamless transition between the Department of Defense and the VA. And for the latest military news, signature programming, and more, head to PentagonChannel.mil. I'm Staff Sergeant Allie Rose with your Pentagon Channel News Update.
Well, testimony continues in the Article 32 hearing for Army Major Nidal Hasan. He faces 32 counts of attempted premeditated murder, as well as 13 counts of premeditated murder for a shooting rampage last November at Fort Hood. Meanwhile, commanders there are finding no correlation between the stress those random shootings put on the Fort Hood community and the rise in suicides there. So far this year, 20 soldiers there have taken their own lives. While that number is high, it follows a demographic trend that's unfortunately defining itself on installations around the world.
You know, this is our safe place. This is our home. It's our reunion, our chance to be together.
Parents, spouses, and friends of service members who took their own lives fill a ballroom at a Washington, D.C. hotel. At last year's gathering, 600 families had called the Tragedy Assistance Program for Survivors for help. This year, that number has grown to 1,300. It's a group that gathers to grieve, but it's also weighing in heavily on readiness policy.
Loved ones, family members, are the first detectors of knowing whether something just is different about an individual.
Many recommendations in the Suicide Prevention Task Force's report, released in August, are based on family members' experiences. For example, Danelle Hackett says when her husband first became short-tempered, somber, and depressed, she didn't recognize the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder.
On the first deployment, he had told me not to ask questions until he was ready to talk about it to me. And so I respected his wishes.
One of the task force's recommendations is to include family members in prevention training.
But he was frustrated because he was constantly being pulled away from his job to do things that he was not trained for and not suited for.
She told him that she intended to divorce him, that she was never coming home.
The task force also heard a lot from parents of lower-ranking enlisted who got into financial or relationship troubles combined with the stress of serving.
Teaching people life skills on how to deal with stresses, because many of our service members are very young folks who haven't lived life long enough to experience tragedy and loss, and many do not have the skills on how to deal with that.
Some parents also critical of military leadership.
Her squad leader, he had a perception. He knew something wasn't right. You know, I think that in that case there was a systemic failure that didn't support that sergeant.
I'm worried about junior leaders. We still hear stories of junior leaders in formations with troops saying that they're weak or real warriors don't need assistance or behavioral health. And that's so far from the truth.
There is progress. Marines are reportedly putting in place some successful new programs.
Let's reward those who bring a buddy forward and they've been doing it, and it's working.
John was my lifelong friend.
And some leaders touched by suicide in their own lives are now initiating programs.
With the knowledge of what happened to John, I understood post-traumatic stress. I was dedicated at the time to make sure my soldiers got the right care that they needed as we prepped for combat.
The important message is you could be the best warrior in the world, but you're still human.
Still, task force leaders say stigma is stubborn and significant change may be years ahead.
And coming up ahead and around the services, service members across the globe celebrate Hispanic heritage. But first, we go downrange to continue our look at explosive ordnance teams in Afghanistan. See how they're protecting our troops.